A man was found dead in a bamboo grove. His body lay hidden beneath the tangled leaves, far from the road where travelers passed. A sword was missing, a woman had vanished, and before long, a notorious bandit was taken into custody. At first, the case seemed simple. A bandit had attacked a traveling samurai and his wife. The husband was dead. The wife was gone. The criminal had been caught. But when the witnesses began to speak, the truth started to unravel. The woodcutter who found the body told one story. The bandit told another. The samurai's wife gave her own account. And through a spirit medium, even the dead samurai spoke. Each person described this same day, the same grove, the same crime. Yet their stories could not be reconciled. Someone was lying, or perhaps everyone was. What happened beneath the shadows of that bamboo grove? Who killed the samurai? And why does the truth seem to slip farther away each time someone tries to explain it? Tonight, we step into one of the most unsettling mysteries in Japanese literature. This is In a Grove by Ryunosuke Akutagawa. Chapter 1. The Witnesses. The first testimony comes from a woodcutter. I found the body 3 days ago. I had gone into the mountains to cut wood, as I do every day. The place was a grove of bamboo, not far from the Yamashina Road. Yes, I found the body of a man. He was lying on his back among the bamboo leaves. He wore a light blue silk kimono and a black cap of the kind worn by samurai. There was a single wound in his chest. The bamboo leaves around him were stained with dried blood. No, I did not see a sword or a bow near the body. I found only a rope and a comb. The rope was lying at the foot of the bamboo. The comb was nearby among the leaves. The ground around the body was trampled, as though the bamboo had been disturbed. No, I saw no sign of anyone else. That is all I know. The next testimony comes from a traveling Buddhist priest. Yes, I saw the dead man before his death. It was around noon on the day before yesterday. I met him on the road from Sekiyama toward Yamashina. He was riding a horse. A woman rode behind him. She wore a veil, so I could not clearly see her face. Still, I could tell she was a woman of remarkable beauty. The horse was chestnut-colored, with a white mane. The samurai carried a sword, a bow, and a quiver filled with arrows. I remember him well because there was nothing unusual about the pair. They appeared to be an ordinary husband and wife traveling together. The next testimony comes from a police officer. I arrested the notorious bandit Tajo Maru. I found him near Awataguchi. He had fallen from a horse and was lying beside the road. The horse was grazing nearby. It was the same chestnut-colored horse described by the priest. When I searched him, I discovered a sword, a bow, and a quiver of arrows. The bow and arrows matched those carried by the dead samurai. That alone would have made him suspicious, but there was no doubt about his identity. Everyone knows Tajo Maru. He is one of the most notorious bandits in the region. Though he was injured, he was still dangerous when we captured him. The next testimony comes from an old woman. The dead man was my son-in-law. No, he was not from Kyoto. He served as a samurai under a lord in Wakasa province. His name was Kanazawa no Takahiro. He was 26 years old. He was a gentle and honorable man. He had no enemies that I know of. My daughter? Her name is Masago. She is 19 years old. She was strong-willed, but devoted to her husband. I have never known her to look at any man except Takahiro. She is small, with a dark complexion and a beauty mark beside her left eye. The day before yesterday, the two of them left for Wakasa, and now my son-in-law is dead. My daughter has disappeared. I grieve for him, but it is my daughter I worry about most. Please, I beg you, find her. Whatever happened in that grove, please, find my daughter." The old woman could say no more. Overcome with grief, she lowered her head and wept. And so the testimonies ended. A dead samurai, a missing wife, and a captured bandit named Tajo Maru. The truth of what happened in the bamboo grove had yet to be revealed. Chapter 2. Tajo Maru's Testimony. My name is Tajo Maru. Yes, I killed a man. But I did not kill him in secret. I killed him with my sword. The bandit spoke without fear. Even in chains, there was pride in his voice. It all began when I saw the woman. The day before yesterday, I happened to be riding along the road when a sudden gust of wind lifted her veil. For only a moment, I caught sight of her face. That single glance was enough. I cannot explain it, but from that instant, I wanted her. Whether I lived or died afterward, no longer mattered. Tajo Maru smiled faintly at the memory. At first, I thought only of taking the woman. I did not care whether I killed the husband or not, so I followed them. When they reached the foothills, I approached the samurai and spoke to him. I told him that I had discovered a collection of ancient swords and mirrors buried in the mountains. I said I was willing to sell them cheaply, but only to someone who could come and see them for himself. The man was interested. As I expected, he wished to inspect the treasure. The bandit led the samurai off the road and deep into the bamboo grove. The woman remained behind with the horse. When we reached a secluded place, I attacked him. I seized him from behind and threw him to the ground. He fought well, but he never had a chance. Before long, I had him bound to the root of a cedar tree. Only then did Tajo Maru return for the woman. I told her that her husband had suddenly fallen ill. Naturally, she followed me. When she arrived at the clearing and saw her husband tied up, she immediately drew a dagger. I have never seen such courage in a woman. Had she possessed a sword, she might have killed me. According to Tajo Maru, she fought fiercely. Several times she nearly wounded him, but eventually he overpowered her. What happened next, he admitted openly. Yes, I took her by force. For a moment, he fell silent. Then his expression changed. But after that, she became even more beautiful. The authorities listened without interrupting. Once it was over, I could no longer leave things as they were. I wanted her to become my wife. Tajo Maru claimed he had every intention of taking her with him. Yet the woman responded in a way he had not expected. She looked first at me, then at her husband. I will never forget her face. According to him, she spoke calmly. If either of you lives, the shame will remain. One of you must die. I cannot belong to a man who has witnessed my disgrace. The words stunned him. Until that moment, he had thought only of possessing her. Now he found himself thinking about honor, about pride, about the judgment in her eyes. So I accepted. He turned to the bound samurai and cut the ropes. The warrior slowly rose to his feet. Neither man spoke. Both understood. Then they drew their swords. It was not an easy fight. For the first time, Tajo Maru's voice carried genuine admiration. The man was skilled, far more skilled than most warriors I have met. The two men circled one another beneath the bamboo. Again and again their swords clashed. Neither would retreat. Neither would surrender. We crossed swords 23 times. The bandit's eyes seemed to brighten at the memory. I have fought many men. No one else has ever forced me to cross swords so many times. At last, however, the duel ended. A mistake, a hesitation, a single opening. Tajomaru struck. The samurai fell, dead. I killed him fairly. There was no hesitation in his voice, no remorse, only certainty. After the duel, he turned toward the woman, but she had vanished. She fled while we were fighting. I searched for her, but I could not find her. For the first time, something like frustration appeared on his face. I chased after her for a while, but eventually I gave up. Before leaving, he took the samurai's sword, bow, and arrows. Later, he claimed, he was forced to abandon the sword near a pond after his horse threw him. That was why it had never been recovered. Tajomaru finished his testimony and looked calmly at his listeners. That is the truth. I killed Takahiro, but I killed him honorably. As for the woman, I do not know where she went. And with that, the notorious bandit fell silent. Chapter 3. Misago's Testimony. I am the wife of the dead man. After that man violated me, he spoke to me in a way I never expected. He told me that what had happened was no longer something that could be undone. Since I had become his, he said, I ought to leave my husband and go away with him. It was then that I first truly hated Tajomaru. No, hate is not a strong enough word. Misago lowered her eyes. Yet what happened afterward was stranger still. When Tajomaru finished speaking, I turned toward my husband. He was still bound beneath the cedar tree. He looked directly at me. Her voice faltered. I cannot tell you what was in his eyes. I only know that I have never forgotten them. They were not angry. They were not sorrowful. They were not even accusing. But when I remember them now, I still tremble. For a moment, she was unable to continue. Tajomaru stood waiting for my answer. My husband said nothing. He only looked at me. The shame of it was unbearable. I thought I would go mad. According to Misago, she suddenly sprang to her feet. Without knowing what she intended to do, she rushed toward her husband. Then she cried out, "Take me with you." Whether she had spoken to Tajomaru or to her husband, she could no longer say. She remembered only her confusion, her terror, her despair. At that moment, Tajomaru's expression changed. The bandit looked from her to the bound samurai. Then he did something unexpected. He cut my husband's bonds. The ropes fell away. Tajomaru immediately stepped back. What happened next remained burned into her memory. The two men stared at one another. Neither spoke. For a long time, no one moved. Then, suddenly, Tajomaru laughed. According to Misago, he seemed disgusted, disappointed, perhaps even contemptuous. He turned toward her. "Women are foolish creatures," he said. "They think only of themselves." The words struck her like a blow. Then he turned to the samurai. "What shall I do with her?" he asked. "Shall I kill her, or shall I spare her?" Misago remembered looking desperately toward her husband. Surely he would answer. Surely he would say something. Yet once again, he remained silent. He said nothing. Not a single word. The memory appeared to pain her more than anything else. He only looked at me. At last, Tajomaru shrugged. "Very well," he said. "A woman like this is not worth risking my life for." With that, he turned and walked away through the grove. Soon he disappeared among the bamboo. Masago remained where she was. The bandit was gone. Her husband was free. And still, the silence continued. I cannot describe what I felt. The samurai stood before her, yet the look in his eyes had not changed. No anger, no grief, no tenderness, only that terrible gaze. It was harder to endure than the bandit's violence. Masago covered her face. I cried. I begged him to say something, anything. But the samurai remained silent. The silence grew unbearable. The grove spun around her. Everything seemed distant, unreal. Then, at last, her strength left her. I remember drawing my dagger. It was a small dagger she had carried with her, the same dagger she had possessed throughout the journey. I remember moving toward him. After that, I remember nothing. A long pause followed. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. When I came to myself, my husband was lying on the ground. The dagger was buried in his chest. The bamboo leaves around him were stained with blood. The man she loved was dead. I wanted to die beside him. Masago said she tried to take her own life. Again and again she attempted it, but each attempt failed. Whether from fear, weakness, or fate itself, she could not say. Eventually she wandered away from the grove, alone, broken, ashamed to still be alive. That is all I remember. I swear I have hidden nothing. With those words, Masago's testimony came to an end. Chapter 4. The Dead Samurai's Testimony. The following testimony was given through a spirit medium. After Tajomaru violated my wife, he sat down beside her. What he said to her afterward surprised even me. He told her that what had happened could not be undone. Since her honor had already been lost, he said, she should become his wife and go away with him. He spoke earnestly. Indeed, had I been in her place, I might almost have been moved by his sincerity. Then my wife raised her face and looked at him. Never had she seemed more beautiful than at that moment. And then she spoke. What do you think she said? She said, "Take me wherever you wish." Those were her words. Even now, as I speak from the darkness beyond death, those words fill me with bitterness. The spirit paused. My wife's crime did not end there. Had it ended there, perhaps I would not suffer as I do. After speaking those words, she pointed toward me. Then she said something so terrible that I can scarcely repeat it. Again and again, even now, her voice echoes in the darkness. She said, "Kill him. Yes, kill him, and then take me with you. As long as he lives, I cannot go with you." Those were her words. For a long moment, the medium remained motionless. Then the voice continued. Even Tajomaru seemed shocked. He stared at her as though he doubted his own ears. For a time, he said nothing. Then he suddenly seized her by the arm. "What shall I do with this woman?" he asked me. "Shall I kill her, or shall I let her live?" At least, that is what I remember him saying. At that moment, despite everything, I felt some respect for it. The dead samurai's voice seemed to grow quieter. My wife struggled free. Then she began to run. She ran wildly through the grove. Tajomaru leapt after her, but she escaped him. Soon neither of them was in sight. I remained alone beneath the cedar tree. The bamboo leaves rustled softly. I do not know how much time passed. At last, Tajomaru returned. His expression was entirely different. "Your wife has escaped," he said. "What happened here is unfortunate, but such things are the way of the world." He spoke several words of that sort. Then he cut the ropes that bound me. As he left, I remember hearing him say, "Take care of yourself." After that, I was alone. Another pause followed. Alone. That is when I began to think. The grove was silent. Only a cicada cried somewhere in the distance. I looked around me. There, among the fallen leaves, lay my wife's dagger. It glittered faintly in the light. I stared at it for a long time. The voice grew faint. My heart was empty. Everything I had trusted had vanished. My wife had betrayed me. My honor was gone. My life no longer held meaning. At last, I picked up the dagger. A long silence followed. Then, I drove it into my chest. The words hung in the air. Warm blood flowed from the wound. Yet death did not come at once. I remained conscious for some time. The grove grew darker. The sounds of the world seemed farther away. Then, as I lay there, I felt someone approach. The voice became almost a whisper. I could not see who it was. The figure moved silently through the bamboo. Then a hand reached toward my chest and gently drew the dagger from the wound. For the first time, uncertainty entered the testimony. I do not know who it was. I never saw the face. But the moment the dagger was removed, darkness rushed over me. That was the end. That was how I died. The medium lowered her head, and the testimony of the dead samurai came to an end. Ending. A woodcutter discovered a body in a bamboo grove. A priest saw a husband and wife traveling peacefully along the road. A police officer captured a notorious bandit. An old woman searched for her missing daughter. Then came the testimonies. Hajomaru spoke of courage, desire, and an honorable duel. Masago spoke of shame, despair, and a gaze she could not endure. The dead samurai spoke of betrayal and death beneath the bamboo. Each account was different. Each account contradicted the others. And yet each voice carried the sound of sincerity. Who killed the samurai? What truly happened in the grove? The story never tells us. Perhaps one witness lied. Perhaps all of them did. Or perhaps each of them believed every word they spoke. That may be the most troubling possibility of all. For when human beings remember the past, memory does not remain untouched. Pride shapes it. Fear shapes it. Love, shame, jealousy, and grief shape it. Little by little, the truth becomes something else. Not what happened, but what we can bear to live with. Somewhere in that bamboo grove, the truth may have existed. Yet by the time the witnesses spoke, it had already become hidden beneath their desires, their regrets, and their need to justify themselves. The grove is silent now. The samurai is gone. The woman is gone. The bandit is gone. Only their stories remain. And as long as those stories endure, the question remains with them. When we speak about ourselves, are we telling the truth? Or are we merely telling the story we need to believe? Perhaps the truth died in the grove. Or perhaps it survives only in fragments, scattered among the voices of those who could never face it completely. We cannot know, and that is why the mystery remains unsolved. In a Grove, written by Ryunosuke Akutagawa. A story in which every witness may be honest, and every witness may be wrong.